it was building and building, and then it's like we blinked, and we were the busiest bar on Friday nights. And I remember like, oh, we did this. We always wanted to do this, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember like running to people I haven't talked to in years or whatnot, and they're in line messaging me. I'm like, oh,
You're the guy now.
I think this is it. I think we found gold.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jeremy. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. This is great.
You were, when I worked to CA, the resident like guy who you go to if you needed something. Like I remember the way that you were explaining to me when I first got there, you're like, this is the guy with a lot of connections. We brought him on for that reason, to extend our membership options so people have more things to do with our membership card. And the more I got to know you, I was like, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense with what you've done in the past, how you got to the role in the first place. And it all kind of added up because out of all the managers, you were the youngest. And I remember always thinking like, oh, he definitely has an edge or something. And in our first meeting, you told me a few kind of interesting things about your past and how you got to that point. And something that maybe a lot of people might not have considered in their career path is you went onto the party scene, and that actually helped you go into a more corporate atmosphere being a club promoter. Do you want to kind of elaborate on your past there and how that led into a more corporate job?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, we talk about this all the time, and the guys actually who I ran it with back in the day makes me sound so old. Actually, walking around Brock made me feel really old today, but we all got like good roles at like good companies. I got a buddy high up at Mosaic. I know a guy that works high up at IBM. Like, we worked together. We did the party scene or whatever, and we ran those events. And I guess there was a lot of learnings. Like, I just remember being at Brock, just like every other student. I don't know what I wanted to do. Yeah. School wasn't for me, but I tried my hardest, and it wasn't enough, right? Came to school to become a psychologist in psychology. Then I switched to social work because I want to be a social worker. I was looking at all these different programs. I think I changed my program every year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was wild. Like, one year I was even going to be, because I was more in the like social sciences, like I even took women's studies to be like, I want to be an advocate and whatnot, and for equality and whatnot. It didn't really pan out, and I was kind of teetering on the line of becoming a social worker. And while I was at school, I also took advantage of having a lot of fun. So I think I took more advantage of that. And this was the scene right before like Avicii started coming out and all that EDM music. And I had a couple buddies that just started to DJ, and they really, really wanted to DJ. And at the time, there wasn't really a space to play that music. It was always like, top 40 hip hop, which obviously still runs king right now. But there was a market that was growing. And we had our lumps. We tried that with different places where we had like 2 people show up. Like, we were in like small little bars in Niagara Falls. We went to Hamilton. We tried different things, but we were eager just to go. So me and my buddy Waleed, we finally, I think it was a perfect storm. Before Port Dalhousie. This is before your time.
I know what this is, but what, like, to people who don't know, why don't you explain what it used to be before it got taken away? So it's directly across Lake Ontario from Toronto, and it's this big party scene, right?
Yeah, it used to be like this little pocket, which it's a beautiful area. So there's a beach down there. There's got some great restaurants out now. They're putting some condos there. But before, there was a ton of beach bars. So every summer, downtown would shut down because it'd be too busy in Port Dalhousie. And I'm not just saying like students from Brock and the locals were there. People were coming from all over. Like, we used to have buses from Buffalo, Toronto. Wow. There's a place called Cottage that fit thousands of people. And they've always been like fighting back and forth to get rid of it. And the one summer they finally say, hey, this is the last one. We're going to build a condo there, which they've never built. It's just a big hole in the wall, hole in the ground there now.
Super upsetting.
Yeah, really upsetting. But we realized there was going to be a new market to open up. So we worked with this one bar called Cachet in downtown, and they were up and coming. And they didn't really have a Friday night yet. There are actually some students running a Friday night, call it Feeling It Fridays. They're good guys. We actually ended up working with them after. But we just took advantage of, all right, there's a market. Let's see how we're going to run this, and we'll see how it goes. So we started it up. We did our first Friday. We had a buddy went to high school with who was doing parties in Hamilton help us out. Our first Friday was like, okay, we can do this. Like, it's not bad. People showed up thinking like, yeah, we're kings. We're young. We're like 22, 21. We're like, this is so easy. Yeah. Next week you come, dead. Absolutely dead. No one came by. We're intimidated because they're young, and the owner was just like, if you guys really want to do this, you need to figure this out. right? And kind of like gave us some tips on how to do things. And I remember, all right, how are we going to do this? And at the time, I worked at Brock, and my buddy was working at a Virgin Mobile kiosk at the Penn Center. So I worked at the Cage. So the Cage here at Brock, for Brock students, you know this. You know, if you go into the gym, you check in. I worked there. I was the guy talking. Funny enough. So what I would do is I would just push every time. Every come to the gym, hey, what are you doing Friday night? What are you doing Friday night? Come by for a free drink. I'll buy you one, blah, blah, blah. My buddy would do the same thing at the Penn Center. And we slowly started building it from there. And then, you know, even if it was like a little bit slower, I remember we'd work the front door and we would run up and down the street and find groups of like people like, hey, where are you going? Like, and before I was like, oh, we're going to Pepper, or we're going to, yeah, I think it's just Pepper at the time.
Different bars and clubs. In
the area. Yeah, so it's Pepper or Stella's. And we're like, okay, come to our place. We'll buy you your whole group of round drinks first before, and you guys can leave after. And I remember we did that for like about a month straight, like in May.
So you're in the negative for a
while. And then, you know, start building. And then once the patio opened up, it was really nice weather. I just remember it was like the turn. I think it was like mid-June or early July. And I remember we walked outside, and our line went down the street. I'm looking like, we did this.
And so from that second night till then, how long was it?
We ran from that. I think it was about a month and a half.
Whoa!
And it was building, and then it's like we blinked, and we were the busiest bar on Friday nights. And I remember like, oh, we did this. We always wanted to do this, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember like running to people I haven't talked to in years or whatnot, and they're in line messaging me. I'm like, oh,
you're the guy now.
I think this is it. I think we found gold. And it was only supposed to be a summertime thing. There's some other Brock students running the Friday nights. We didn't want to take away from them. But once we got towards the end of the summer, we realized, you know what, we can kind of do this. So we kind of, you know, spoke to the guys, hey, let's work together. We ended up working together. We called it Footless Fridays, and we were like the student Friday night at this bar with the newest like house music around, and we were packed. We ran parties, and it just grew. We started meeting other DJs, other promoters, guys from our age that wanted to continue. We really built a great team of about like 20 to 30 people, and then we started to expand out, and we were thinking, hey, let's make this like a promotions company. And we had DJs, we had promoters, we had graphic designers, and at one point we were running week-long festivals. So we used to do a Frost Street festival, and I remember we were supposed to do it at, I think it was Pepper on the Monday. There's a different bar every night. I can't remember on Tuesday. Wednesday was at Coonaville back in the day where I was at the Penn Center. Oh no, Thursday, sorry. The Mansion was Wednesday, and then Friday was at Cache. Saturday was at Barracuda Pretty, the biggest bar in town.
Right.
And I remember like, hey, we sold enough. Like, hey, we sold like a couple thousand. Like, hey, like let's do this. Friday, we're supposed to do it at Pepper, and they had a pipe burst. We're like, oh no. And then we're like, what do we do? And we're like, you know what? Let's just talk to Coonaville. They're the next biggest place. Let's see if anybody comes out. Again, one of those moments like, wow, we did this. Like they came out, and they just came out with a great time. It expanded. We were at different bars. We helped open a couple bars. And it was a good like 3-4 year experience of just trying to figure out what worked, how to connect. And everyone always wondered like why I would do it, because I was very on the business side of it. I was never, if you look at it, we had photographers and stuff. I would never be in the photos. I always wanted to be in the background, run in the front. Like the guys who are the DJ, the promoters, you guys take all the spotlight.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure our name is running, it's going, and a good time's have. Right. And so that was all about. And I just kind of realized that I want to be in marketing. And I took an internship. My buddy Coop Millard, he was the president of Busu. Hey, why don't you just come take this? I think it was the street team. Started learning the ins and outs, and I really enjoyed it. And it kind of like worked into a couple jobs after that. Like I did a marketing program over at Niagara College for a little bit. Then I got hired off of the bat at this company in the Falls, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, to do their marketing and run their bar. So I had a little bit of a background of both, and it just kind of ballooned of what I wanted to do. And I figured out what I was good at. It took me a couple of years, and I just realized that I was really good at talking.
Yeah, you definitely are. And I think that's a beautiful story. So it all really stemmed from, I think the kind of fork in the road started that second one where there was no one around.
Yeah.
And you guys could have either chosen to quit there or do what you did, which is go out and spread the word. And I think that's really, really inspiring and kind of cool. And I'm guessing that skill that you use to go out and just like grab people like, hey, at first it was probably really intimidating. Then overall it just gets easier and easier. I've seen you bring that into deals and stuff with CAA now and in your professional life. So that's a really interesting way of that translating over. So obviously, just like everyone else, you had your party phase. Do you think that's important to kind of get out of your system and just experience while you're young, so that way when you're older, you can like have your life and not worry about what you missed out on?
I honestly, I tell like my cousins, I'm a coach too, and I tell kids like, do it now, go have fun. Like I go experience. Like I traveled a little bit when I was younger too as well, because it's hard to do it now, right? You have jobs, you got family, you have all these different things going on. Like you just back in when I was younger, I could just drop on a dime, like I'm out for a bit, right?
Yeah.
But that also helped me come out of my shell. Like I believe, and you might laugh at me, like I still kind of believe it. I think I'm still a shy, quiet person.
I remember you telling me this, and I found it very hard to believe. Yeah.
And putting myself out there in those situations, I think, has really helped me. In the long run, I was doing beer sales across Ontario, really putting myself in uncomfortable situations to get myself out of that box to really get myself into a groove. Like I was a terrible public speaker. I hated talking. I hated doing small talk. I kind of do now, but now it's just second nature, right? And putting myself in those experiences and having fun while doing it really helped me push to kind of the person that I am today.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because if I can think of the most uncomfortable situation for someone like that, it would probably be a bar or club.
Yeah.
So putting yourself in that situation is like a kind of jumping in the deep end without knowing how to swim situation, right?
Exactly. And it came to terms too, like, how I said, where like sometimes events, like it just doesn't happen. You just don't get people coming out. And I kind of related to when I was in sales, they're going to say no, right? And you're going to get more no's than yeses, but you can't dwell on it, right? You gotta keep moving forward. So my big thing when I first started working at CEA, and kind of in my mantra, is why not? Let's give it a shot. And if things don't happen, it doesn't happen. As long as we give it an honest effort, then we really know. And sometimes if you give it an honest effort, it's just going to balloon and turn into something.
And do you think all those experiences at the club and breaking into your shell have helped you in the art of closing a deal with CA? Because I know that's essentially your job. You're the guy that gets deals with partners.
Yeah, a little bit it did back in the day, because my buddy, he was good at negotiating. Before I was a little bit of a pusher. I was like, yeah, we'll take those terms, no problem.
Yeah.
Then realizing you never take that first deal. They're there to take advantage of you and whatnot, and you can always negotiate. And then that kind of parlayed it into, okay, I'm used to like working with these different types of individuals in different scenarios in restaurants and bars. I kind of parlayed that into my next role over at Ruth Chris, where I was the other way around, where I was also in charge of the wine and liquor list there, where they were pitching me so I could hear it. And then when I went back to selling on the other side, I took components of that from the club days and like, okay, I know how people can talk to me. I've talked to other people. How can I convert that and making sure like my portfolio grows here in the province?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Yeah. And for someone, I'm just leaving university looking at doing that kind of stuff. I think that's really important to realize how to do, because even just doing this podcast, like I've run into a few just potential deals, and I've thought, oh yeah, I'll just take that off the bat, not wanting to be like combative and just like, yeah, I don't know, I'll do whatever. But I guess you can always argue for yourself and advocate, and that's not a bad thing.
No,
right?
not at all.
No.
I just remember, even I was also a cell phone rep for a little bit, and I was always like, it's always someone my age, because I put them in my shoes. If I said, this is what it is, and they'd be like, yep, no problem. Some guy my age, and I'll be like, oh, I got him. But then I'll go out and buy something, and like, hey, that's the price. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. And I think there's a lot of value in pushing back and figuring it out, not like, I don't know, taking advantage of the person, but finding a middle ground.
For sure.
Right. I think that's a lot of the deal, is we're figuring out where do both people balance and find that equilibrium where both people are benefiting simultaneously, right? I also just kind of I'm curious, since I haven't been at CA in a while, have you guys incorporated or plan on incorporating AI at all into your business, or see how that could change the business model potentially?
It could. We've explored it a little bit. Like that's part of my role now is innovation. I'm taking a look at new businesses. Or as my friends or some people would put it, my job is made up, right? Because I'm always like doing different things every day. But AI is a market we're looking to, how can we work with it, right? It's a very big, I can't even say buzzword right now, but it's a big topic. But there's a way to use it to make it efficiencies and little things like that. And you would know the CA model, but other people won't. But CEA is split up into basically provinces and big regions. We're actually the only club in Canada that's regional based, so we're really a mom and pop shop. So what we're trying to do is learn from other clubs and see what they're doing with AI, and there is some exciting things on how to do some predictability on, when the roadside needed, or even predict where, even spending habits and whatnot. So a lot of it infancy stage at our club, but we're hoping to, go with the times, because if we don't adjust and play with it, we'll be just left in the dust.
Right, because that's what every time I see a headline like, oh yeah, it's replacing this marketing thing and this marketing thing, like, I am graduating university with a marketing degree. This is looking more and more grim every time I see one of those headlines. But I think you can look at it from two ways. One, it'll either replace jobs, or two, you can use it to enhance it and make your job more efficient. And I really hope that's the direction. Like, yeah. I heard someone liken it to like, it's like looking back and seeing the people who were like just weary or scared of Excel, saying we should stick to pen and paper. Obviously that you would never do that. No one would ever advocate for that today. It's that kind of change, maybe even bigger.
Well, it's funny because like my analogy for it, and I could be completely wrong, I'm not an expert in it, but my analogy for it is it's like a self-serve station at a fast food, so, or like Walmart or whatnot. And people are always saying, don't go to those self-checkout, self-serve, because it's replacing jobs. Like, no, it's not. I've spoke with these businesses. They are not down manpower. They're actually reutilizing those individuals and other assets to be more efficient as a company and make their jobs a little bit easier, right? And AI could be a great tool to help enhance what we're talking about, right? And it's helped me a bunch already, like little chat GPT. It's helping my writing, because my writing's awful.
Yeah.
The guys who've read my stuff and edited it before, but it's given me a good base and really starting point. And I'm like, all right, this is good.
I find it is good, but if I'm using it for marketing material, you can't just take it at face value. There'll be something weird in there, and you're like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah. Like, but it's great to give ideas, and that's what I have. Like so I coach basketball on the side. It's just been my hobby for the past, since I was like 19, since I thought I was going to grow up, become a basketball player, and it never happened. So I'm now a coach, but I helped launch this new organization, and like, oh, you're the marketing guy, so like you can write the copy and stuff.
What's the organization?
It's called Niagara Ignite. So it's cool. We're taking kids all over and taking the best kids and just giving them the best opportunity to compete. But like, all right, I have to write some social media. I'm like, I don't know where to start. So I was just looking at some things and like, hey, I need a caption for this. And I'm like, the first initial ones are obviously awful. But I'm like, all right, but it's a good launching point. All right, get some ideas and I can put something together.
Yep. Yeah. No, yeah, that's how I've been using it too. But that's cool, the basketball organization. Can you talk a little bit more about that? That's interesting.
Yeah. So I've been coaching since I was 19, 18. So that's about, 14, 15 years ago. And I just been always coaching. My buddies always say, like, why do you do this? And I just love the game and see the growth. And the Niagara region is very specialized. We have some really good players out here. But we had a problem a couple of years ago where there just wasn't enough elite, training for kids. So kids were going all over to play for different teams. They're going to Toronto to train. They're going to the States. But we have so many great coaches here in the region to provide that service. So I was with an old organization a couple of years ago called United that tried to run that. Unfortunately, people got busy and it just kind of fizzled out. I was looking for a new team to coach next year, and speaking with some players and parents and some coaches in the region, is like there's still that market. So I said, hey, what the time is now? Like, I've been coaching for all these different organizations under these great coaches and learned. I'm like, why not just rebrand it and restart a new one and do it the way the vision that we want to make sure the kids are put first. So this non-for-profit organization that I'm starting, we're just grabbing the best kids, providing them elite training, making sure they're working and helping to get to their goals. Because we've got kids that are playing all over, right? We've got a kid. I was fortunate enough to coach him for a couple of years. He played for Team Canada on the U15. Wow. There's a kid from Pelham named TJ. He plays in Vermont D1. We've got kids that were, we had a boot kid job. He went to my old high school. He played over at Oregon and Boise State. Was on the Raptors summer league team. Nice. You got kids playing JUCO and whatnot, so that you can come from Niagara, train and learn here, and go somewhere. So that's the keys that we're trying to help, and making sure that we have enough coaches and support for that type of model, and working together and just providing that outlet. Like really, like no agenda, just hey, if you want to come play with us, you can. But if you're interested in playing with your other team, go ahead.
So it's on top of, say, an additional league. They'll go there and get extra training.
Yeah, exactly.
Any future prospects for the NBA?
It's early to say right now. The kids are young, but like it's funny when I love having that conversation, especially with the younger kids. It's what is your goal? It's like it's to make the NBA. I'm like that's a fantastic goal. I think that's great, but let's hold it in a little bit. Let's worry about next year. Let's worry about like making your club team. Let's worry about making your high school team in a couple of years, right? And then when you get to high school, okay, what's your next goal? Do you want to be the scorer? Do you want to go to prep school? Do you want to go to university? Let's make little steps first, get those obtainable, and see where your outline goes. Right. My big thing right now, and I wouldn't say a plague, but it's an issue in sports everywhere. Is unfortunately some kids just sold the dream, right? And they pay X amount of money. With the organization that I'm running, we want to be realistic and help you achieve attainable goals, and we'll get you there.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you, hey, I'm the guy to get you into D1 college, right? I'm not going to tell you, hey, I can get you into this prep school. I can tell you, we're going to do our best to get you where you want to go. We'll let you do the foundation. And I think something that's really lacking, and the coach he was my high school coach, he's helping me with this. He's been a little bit of a mentor to me right now, is Patrick Sullivan. He always says, we're gonna be truthful. I'm not gonna lie. If your best aptitude is like being a defender, well, let's be a defender. I'm not gonna tell you you gotta be a scorer.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you your stats. I'm gonna tell you that this is what you're good at. Let's move on. Let's see what we can do for you.
And I think that's good because it gives kids the realistic, not realistic, but it gives them the benefits of sports that aren't like, oh, I'm just gonna become rich and famous from this. It's this is teaching me how to work hard, be disciplined, and come back week after week to something.
Yeah.
The people that I know that have gone to university sports and things like that, obviously, like no one's become professional. But what I have seen them take away is the work ethic. Never been like a huge athlete myself, but what I've seen just personally when I do training and things like that is it primes me for one, like whatever else I'm doing, or two, the rest of the day. Literally, that's it. It makes me want to get up and go do something. And if anything, from what it sounds like you're describing, your organization is priming kids to do that.
Yeah.
And they might not become NBA players, but they will. It'll take aspects of it in other parts of their lives, right?
100%. Like when I first started coaching, a gentleman named John Riddell, he got me into coaching. He was a great mentor towards me.
Is he associated with the school in Hamilton?
No. He's a teacher here though in the region.
Okay.
Actually coached all three of his sons. But when I first started coaching, he was actually a hockey player back in the day. I think he was like a travel player, and then he coached high-end soccer for a while. But his sons loved basketball, so he knew how to coach, but didn't know like he knew like the basis. So I really helped him with more of the technical side of basketball. But one of the first lessons I always learned from him, we would go to restaurants with this, a grade 5 team. He was able to get these kids, like they'll tell the restaurant, hey, the kids are gonna sit by themselves, and like they get nervous. They're like, well, we're gonna get 10 unruly kids. He goes, no, trust me, they're gonna behave. They're gonna say their thank yous. They're gonna be polite. You'll see. Every time we went out, we did that. They came back. The best team we ever had. And I asked him, like, why do we do that? And he goes, yeah, basketball's part of it. But the main goal is that these kids become great young men when they're done. And once they are, that's what I'm most proud of, because it's very hard to make the NBA or make to the next level. But as long as they leave us as great young men with these great, skills, I'm happy about that. And I've always, took that to heart.
That's very impressive. What do you think it is about him that commands the respect of kids in grade 5? Because how old are they? 9, 10?
Something like that. But
they have a mind of their own. They don't usually respect someone if they're telling them what to do.
Oh, for sure. But he also has years of experience as a teacher as well, backing him up. So just the way you speak with them, he treats them as young adults. It's honest with them as well. And just the discipline and putting that support system. Hey, like I'm gonna break it down if something's going wrong, but like you also want to be respected. I'm gonna talk to you the way I want you to talk to me, and that's how it's going with. And we've had some kids that really didn't have some of that structure before, so it was a little battle in the beginning, but towards the end they got like, oh, this is like they care about me. That's why they're pushing, because he actually did care, and that's what I really learned. Like I care about how you become after, and I'll always check in.
Right.
And it's been a model that I've kept ever since.
So have you seen some big success stories with kids who come in maybe from like not the most fortunate background, and then they leave more rehabilitated person?
Yeah, like it's funny because we, as a you see these kids, and they really not personality yet, right? They're kids, they're learning, and then I'm old enough now, I've coached long enough now that I see them as young adults in their early 20s, and like having full conversations with me, telling me about like what they've done, what they do, and it's really cool to see like, hey, like I want to say that I've had a little bit of part of that, trying to treat them as young men. That's my thing too. Is as a coach, I'm going to not treat you as a child. I'm going to treat you as a young man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't like it, you're just having to listen, and we're going to have to fight through it. And, you know, we have some battles. And
it's funny because that's something I noticed with you and me at my old job. Like I was the intern and you were a manager, and you came up and talked to me like you would anyone else, which at a company hierarchy, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of natural. Like you talk to people differently, and the person, no point against that. But it really made me resonate with you, and that's why I was like, Jeremy, like if you ever need anything, like let me know. And then we landed on that shell project, which ended up being pretty cool.
Yeah, which we still use today.
No way.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because like your name all pops up. I'm like, yeah, Davis made that and whatnot. Actually, I have a beef with you. Actually,
why?
I haven't told you this yet. So I was looking at my company credit card, and I got this charge for like $500. I'm like, what is this from? I was looking at it, and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. And I talked to Shanna, and she's like, I think Davis used my credit card for like this video thing. Do we still use it? She goes,
but do you remember what happened with that?
No, but I just remember, and I had to call them, and we were trying to find your email and stuff. So luckily, I got connected with like a rep there.
Oh,
like,
no.
Hey, listen, I just blamed you the whole time. Like, yeah, my intern used my credit card. You didn't tell me, and blah 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 blah. She goes, yeah, we'll reverse the charge.
I think
like,
you came
perfect.
from a conference and you learned about it. And you're like super excited. You're like, Davis, sign up for this. And I was like, whose card should I use? She's like, I don't care, just use this. I'm like, okay.
That sounds about right.
And then I left, and I guess all the details and everything got lost. And then another year came around and it got renewed, and no one used it.
Yeah, that's why. Because I popped, I'm like, I don't remember this. So everyone uses my card here and there at work for purchasing for our program.
Yeah.
But that sounded about me coming back from a conference, being like, Davis, I don't care. You're using this. You're going with it. Make it happen. And he did, and we still use it today. It's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I remember something I wanted to ask you about the club promoting days. Do you have any wild stories from just being in those atmospheres all the time? And I know it's a breeding ground for crazy things in university to happen. So do you have any stories you can think back on of a particularly memorable moment or night or just situation in general that occurred?
This is like more of like on the connection side. For one summer, I don't know why I did this, but every Friday I worked 3 jobs.
Holy shit. Oh, okay.
I would work at the Cage from like 9 to 2. Then I would work at Virgin Mobile Kiosk in Welland from 3 to 7. Go home, get ready, chill out, get to Cache from 10 to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That was my Friday, every Friday for a summer.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very dumb.
Why? Why do you say that?
I just felt like just learning how. I also have to learn how to relax, like take some time off. I was always on the go. I always had something going. Yeah, and to be fair, I still do that. But I remember I helped out a guy who came to the gym that morning. Like, hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And then I was working at the Seaway Mall, and he was walking around buying something. So we said hi, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even ask him what he was doing Friday night. And then I think around midnight, I was at the front door just talking to some people, and he's walking into the bar. And this guy goes, do you just work everywhere? Like, I just don't, like, I see you everywhere. I'm like, yeah, it's the thing. So, like, I just remember people being like, hey, like, you're here, you're there. It's crazy. But
so have you taken some, I don't know, lessons from that you need to maybe relax every once in a while?
I want to say yes, but I haven't. If you talk to my buddies right now, I have something on the go all the time. I think the only time I really took a break was during COVID when everything was locked down. Mm-hmm. Then I ended up joining a bunch of boards and doing virtual stuff that kept me busy.
Why? Like what's the need to do all these things?
I just go. I just keep on going. And funny enough, I told you I'm running this basketball organization. A kid that I coach, now coaches with me, we were chit-chatting early in this year with one team, and I said, I think this is it. I think I'm finally going to take a break from basketball. I've been coaching all the time. I think I'm going to take a step back and just kind of like reset and learn. And you come back next year and coach. The next week I go see him. He goes, so I'm starting this basketball program. I'm like, you just told me you're taking a break. I'm like, yeah, that didn't fly.
Well, I think there's something to that go atmosphere. Just being at my new internship, it's at a innovation hub where we bring in new businesses and
Amazing.
Help them grow. Talking to a bunch of the entrepreneurs, it's kind of the same mindset as you have, honestly. It's like, go all the time. Problem occurs, pipe bursts, figure out something. There's always a way around it. And it's kind of the reason why I started this podcast, because it seems like to get the most out of life, you have to go get it. And that's exactly what you do. You go after it, you go get it. And sitting around waiting for something to happen, obviously, usually doesn't result in much good. So I had a point to this. I can't remember. Going after and getting is basically what you need for an entrepreneurial mindset. And it sounds like that's kind of what you have.
Well, like it's, I always tell people, I call it organized chaos. I thrive in it. If a situation happens, hey, let's go. We're running with it. We roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Like you can't, especially, my background is in my profession is all over the map. So what I've learned is never to, dwell on some things you can't control. You have to roll. We just had a situation this past weekend where we had an event and I popped by and I had to stay for a couple hours because some things just didn't happen. And the person in charge, was stressed out because it didn't work out. I'm like, hey, the event's running, members are happy, we've moved on. We'll worry about this another time. We'll talk about it. We'll plan for it. But hey, everything's working. The only people that don't know what's working is me and you. So let's just go. And you just got to go with it.
Would you say that comes from a place of being kind of one-track minded, of not having 8 things running your brain at once, but being focused on the immediate task?
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. And I don't know, like another example would be COVID. I remember when COVID hit, it hit everybody differently. And my boss, at the time, she didn't really we were talking all the time over Teams and whatnot. And then one day she just called me. She goes, "Are you okay? Everyone else is struggling with this right now. Are you okay?" Like we really don't talk. Like usually we just leave. We go, I'm like, yeah, like I'm fine. Like something new happened. I got to figure this out. And I enjoy this challenge because, my job at the time was driving and meet face to face and getting people to go there. Now we're adjusting. Like, how can we adjust to support these people where their businesses are closed? I said, this is a brand new challenge and there's nothing we can do to change that roadblock. So we've just got to pivot and adjust and move on.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, rather than, oh my God, everything's changed. I wish it was back to the way it was before. It's like, this is how it is. What are the new ways we're going to adjust and figure it out?
That's my big thing too. And I tell the marketing team or anyone I'm working with in any capacity is, if you just dwell in the past, you're not going to get better. You're not going to innovate. If you're just like, oh, but it was great like this, you become stagnant, right? I feel uncomfortable when we don't do anything net new in a time span, which is probably not great. But if I'm like, what are we doing that's not different? Like, yeah, our numbers are fine, but it's going to drop one day.
Yeah.
Are we ready for that? Let's be proactive than reactive. Let's start thinking.
If you're not innovating, you're behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the new role for me is great, because I'm always trying something out different, something new. And I'm, one day I'm working for something for PR, which I'm learning a lot in, or the next day I'm working in partnerships. So a new atmosphere is great. And I don't think it's for everybody. I know I was talking to somebody about it and like, I don't know how you do it. I would be very stressed. I'm like, I love it.
Especially coming from someone who you said yourself used to be a shy kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really shy growing up. I don't know when I came out of my shell, apparently, I still think I'm a shy kid, but, I'm comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right? Those tough conversations too. I'm great. I don't mind having this conversation where we have to make a deal, but I'm also fine and comfortable in conversation where I have to say no.
Yep.
Right, where we have to pull out of a deal or like, hey, listen, this isn't working. And this is kind of from my sales days and comes with coaching as well, is you never burn a bridge, because you never know one day that person's going to come back, right? And they're going to help you out with something, or you're going to need something from them, or they're going to need something from you. So back when I was in the rewards program and working with these different businesses, I always said, hey, listen, if it's not working, or they tell me it's not working, let's just say bye for now. But who knows, maybe down the line, something might work together, right? And that's helped. And it's kept my relationships up, just pop by, say hello. I know back when I was in beer sales, I know I'm jumping from job to job. I would go with my buddies and go out with my buddies. And they'd always say, okay, we're here at this bar or restaurant. You only get 10 minutes of talking to a random person to get to know them, and then you're hanging out with us. Because I don't want to meet all these random people that you're going to go do and try to make a deal and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because I don't think anyone would really be able to go from the shy kid to having people have to reel them in to not talk to other people.
Oh, yeah, I get that all the time. It's like my buddies hate it. Like, oh, we got to go talk to this person, because Jared was like, talking to this person, and we got to go see this person. It was really bad before, but now I've done a better job of, respecting my buddy's boundaries. Before I was young and eager and wanted to like get everything and conquer St. Catharines, right?
Conquer St. Catharines.
Yeah, right. That's the best way to put it. But now it's just like, hey, no respect. Hey, I'll just talk to you another day. We'll talk about that deal, one-on-one time, right?
You said something earlier that I've been thinking about lately. Say in a deal, let's say something starts to go wrong. At what point do you say, hey, this isn't working out, or even potentially go, hey, like, we're never working together again? I guess you said the not burning bridges part, but in my personal life, even I always try, like, never like cut anyone out. If things don't work, even friendship wise, like, hey, that's cool.
Yep.
Not everyone has to be super close all the time. Totally fine. But at what point do you go, like, hey, this is like really bad? You like, I don't know if this should work out anymore from a business context.
I've actually had that scenario happen before. I've had a meeting with an individual who unfortunately said a very offside comment about a particular race, and I have my standards, I have my values, and luckily working for an organization like CA Niagara, it also represents my values. I'm inclusivity and all whatnot. And I just remember, we're trying to work home this deal, and he made that offside comment, and I just remember, I gotta just deal with this now. So I just thought, like, hey, listen, you said what you said, but if this is a conversation and we're going to continue, and you're going to continue to have those beliefs, and you're going to continue to say that out loud, unfortunately, this is going to work out at the moment. He goes, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that, backtrack, blah, blah, blah. I just want to make sure, because if these are beliefs that you say out loud in these type of meetings, working together, you're a representative of not only myself, but also my company. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page, because if those aren't on the same page, unfortunately, we can't work together, right? And they understand, and I've had those tough conversations where, it's just not going to work out, and just, hey, listen, just not right now.
So going outside of your values or morals, that's like...
Yeah, that's my cutoff point. About my morals. And when I was younger, I really, I had such a fixation on just closing deals and working with people, and as a person of, as a person of a visible minority, like I did it all the time. As some of my buddies will talk about it. Well, it's called like code switching. I would always change my personality to fit, that person trying to sell. And I was really like exhausted by the end of the day, and I really didn't like what I was becoming, because there was always like some offside comments that I kind of, let go, and even as little comments, it's just like, yeah, that's not needed. And I kind of bled that a little bit into my coaching early, where there was some situations with some players where when the Kaepernick situation was going on, I wish I was a little bit more supportive back then, but I was just telling them, just be quiet, because we're going to the States, and I was more feared for the safety, but realizing, no, I should have supported a little bit more. So I've been more vocal on, if it doesn't align with my beliefs and my morals, I do not want to be a part of it.
I think that shows a lot of integrity, and it shows a lot about you. Something you said earlier that piqued my interest. You were younger, you were like blazing through all these deals, everything was working out. What made you, or maybe there were times you didn't, reel in at times where you thought, okay, this is like either borderline like this could go wrong in some way, like maybe someone's getting taken advantage of, or it's not the best? Because it came to mind in like my sphere of influence, like not that I am one, but like social media personalities, and you see them all the time. Like, oh, this person did this horrible thing, and a lot of the time the story kind of goes like, they're getting all this affirmation, they're getting all this positivity, kind of like you closing deals, and then they just keep doing whatever it takes to keep getting that, and they eventually do something that's obviously very blatantly wrong. What kind of checks and boundaries did you have to like prevent that from happening, or was this time that you stopped something because you thought, okay, this isn't what I want to be?
I think I'm very fortunate that I've never had that situation where it was that, it was that bad, because I don't think I would put myself in that situation. Reading reading the room, looking at who I'm working with. Yes, when I first started working at this first bar, it wasn't obviously the greatest bar when I first started. But separating myself at a time, like, this isn't what I want anymore. That's why I kind of stepped away from that bar scene. I think we stepped away, and some other promoters took over and changed everything up. I was very happy to do that, because I was thinking, like, this isn't the environment that I want to be. If I'm going to grow and become something else, I had to like kind of get out of that, or I could just been stuck. And I've been pretty fortunate that that's really probably the biggest decision I've had to make, teetering around that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you very easily could have stayed in that bar scene.
Oh,
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
It's fun, right? Like
Right.
the same thing, right? Even my past role, so yeah, running those bars and then working for Ruth Chris Steakhouse, being steakhouse manager, and marketing manager and lounge manager, and then working even in beer sales. Like that was a lot of fun. Like I got to go to bars and have a beer. That was my job, right? To talk to people and try to get it in there. But then it's realizing like it's not what I wanted, and I switched over to CA. I remember when I was telling all my vendors that I'm moving on, or telling my buddies, it's like, you're leaving the bar scene to become a tow truck driver? I'm like, no. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. It's something that I'm still really good at, and like making deals and talking and making connections, and it's just a different format. And I'm very happy I made that switch because
What was the reason for that? It was a little bit of a hostile environment?
it's hard.
Yeah.
Sales as a beer rep, and if anyone beer reps are listening, they know. Like I've met some guys, I made some really good connections. It's I hate using the word, but everyone's got to use it's a grind, right? Like
Grind set.
yeah, that's what it is. Like hustle, grind, whatever. But like going out to a different bar here and there, and everyone's trying to fight for space, and you're going. And I was eager because I really, really wanted to do well. And when I really wanted to do well, I put a high standard to myself, and I pushed myself. So I was driving to a new city in Ontario every day. So every Monday I was in downtown St. Catharines. That's when I did like my paperwork. But then Tuesday, I'm driving to Guelph for the day, come back. Then I'm driving to London, and then coming back. Then I'm driving to Hamilton, then coming back. That was my life for about 2 years.
Right.
Driving to Ottawa, because the brewery is based in Ottawa, Ottawa Valley. So that was 4 or 5 hour drive, going there every quarter, picking up my co-workers in Toronto because they don't have cars, right? So I had to pick them up too. And it was just exhausting. And because it's commission and sales, money wasn't great. So it was just kind of the point where like I can continue to have fun and not have a future and work, paycheck to paycheck, or I can find a role that's, situated in Niagara that I always want to be in, and, learn and grow and kind of be happy and have that work-life balance, because I did not have work-life balance.
That's a good point to touch on. It's kind of something I've been asking everyone that comes on that's working in a more professional sphere. How do you achieve that work-life balance? And if you don't, what are some things that you wish you did a little bit better?
I just wish I knew that it's not an emergency. Like when I worked at Ruth Chris and I worked at this beer company, Whitewater Brewing Company, great beer, by the way. If something happened, I would drop, even if I was off, I'd drop everything and just deal with it. I'd be out with my buddies. I gotta do something. I remember like one time I was playing pickup basketball at night at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and I got an email. I literally stopped playing so I could deal with it on the side. And as I started moving to work at CEA, I had some great mentors there that even with that rule, like it's not an emergency. The place is not on fire. No one's getting hurt, right? You just deal with it when you can, right? So I was taught like, everyone makes fun of me for having 2 cell phones, right? Because I have a work phone and I have my personal phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, why do you have both? It's like, so I know that when I'm off and on my time, I can put that work, and I know that I have systems in place that will function still, but I can always check it periodically where I don't have to take it with me everywhere.
So you don't have your work number, work email on your personal phone?
No, separate. If I need to get some of my stuff, I can go there to really provide that work-life balance. And I was also one of those kids where like, if I don't take vacation, I only vacation when I go away. I don't need an extra day.
Yeah. And
luckily, the people at CA have been very big on, you need to reset. And I think that's helped me, right? And there's been days where I've been like, okay, I'm working a bunch of projects. I got some vacations. I just need to reset so I can reset my mind and come back fresh.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to get burnt out, which I've done to myself in the past so many times. Just go, go, go. You can hear this. Like I've been go, go, go.
I think that's very important for a company culture as well, or else everyone will start to kind of, one, not like their job, and two, just resent all the management for making them work so hard all the time.
Yeah, so like I've never had it in the past, and it's funny. They're telling me, go take vacation, like go away. I actually just booked a trip, and I still have that little bit of like fire in me. I'm like, I feel really bad because I'm like taking 2 weeks off.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Japan in October with my buddies.
Ooh, that's exciting.
I remember like going to my boss. I'm like, hey, is it okay if I book 2 weeks off in October? Blah, blah. She laughs at me. She goes, just book it. Like you need a vacation. I'm like, okay, great, thank you. And like, it's that easy too, right? Like, I do feel bad. I got some friends who are in workplaces where they feel bad even taking a day off because they need they're small businesses, and they you take a day off and you're like hurting the team because you're away, which is it's such backwards thinking where it actually helps you if you're actually sick or you need some time off, like take it off so you don't actually bring people down with you at your workplace.
Right, recharge your battery so you can bring other people up with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, from what I remember at CA, they did a really good job of that. So it's nice that you got to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I want to thank you for coming on.
I
This
appreciate
was
it.
a really, really great one. And I just appreciate your time. It was a great conversation.
Oh, I had no time, man. This is fantastic. It's good to see you. Good to see Brock. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks.
Thanks, man.